Good morning. Congratulations to everyone for getting here this morning. I, this morning, traveled from the new capital of winter, New York City, to the somewhat gentler climes of Albany. Isn't that a switch? Anyway, good morning and welcome to the 20th annual Parks and Public Land Advocacy Day. 20! I am Erik Kulleseid, President and CEO for the Open Space Institute. Many of you may know me from my former job as the Commissioner of New York State Parks. And I know we'll be hearing from her later, but it's great to see my successor, Kathy Moser. I know she's here somewhere, but she's right there, and we'll be hearing from her. We'll be hearing from her later. It's a joy to be with you here today. I am thrilled that this is the biggest Park Advocacy Day that OSI and PTNY have ever held. In this room, we have more than 160 people from 90 organizations, including 60 first-timers. Let's hear it. In fact, if this is your first time, stand up. We'll give you some applause. First timers. Woo! Thank you for coming. Thank you for braving the winter. We gave you, this is when you're first timer, you have to get a little bit of a hazing, right? So we gave you a little weather to deal with this morning. And then, of course, if you've been with us here before, stand up so we can welcome you back because you're very important to us. Stand up if you've been here before. There we go. What a great crowd. Thank you very much. It's hard to believe that OSI and PTNY have been doing this for 20 years. There are marriages that don't last that long. But I would say through our partnership, and it's really been a great partnership, you're going to hear from Steely in a second, who is really our great partner and friend, and the entire staff. Our staff works so well together on this. I think what has been great is we built and institutionalized a strong voice for parks and public lands over the past 20 years. Parks and public lands can't speak for themselves. So OSI and PTNY have devoted themselves over the last 20 years to providing a platform for you, the truest park constituents, to speak for them. And what a success you've had. You've fought for and succeeded in dramatically increasing the state's financial commitment to protecting and building parks and making them safer and more welcoming for all. And your friends, neighbors, and out-of-state visitors have responded with record attendance. And through PTNY's grant program and their I Love My Parks Day, you and our friends are lifting friends groups and empowering park visitors to take more active and direct roles in the health and vitality of our state park system. Again, I salute Steely and our partners at PTNY and thank them for being on this worthwhile journey with us. You know, many of you know me. For me, speaking out for parks, public parks, it's as natural as breathing. It's part of me. It's part of my childhood, part of who I am. As some of you may know, my first job was as a lifeguard at Harriman State Park. So it's no exaggeration to say that I grew up in the state park system. I've experienced the power of parks over and over again, and you're here today because you have too. So when you're meeting with legislators this afternoon, just remember what parks and public lands mean to you. Source that passion, source that authenticity. It's going to come through loud and clear, and you're going to move these people. You're going to move all our elected representatives. So I'm about to turn it over to my good friend Steely from PTNY, and then we'll hear from a great lineup of speakers. We may switch the order up a little bit, but we're going to hear from Acting State Parks Commissioner Kathy Moser, ex-OSIer. In about 2 weeks, I can talk to the agency because my 2-year ban is done. I can't talk to Kathy for 2 years because she has a ban on talking to us. DEC Commissioner Amanda Lefton, one of our great friends of conservation forever, and also a colleague of mine when I was in government. We were forged out of the cauldron of the prior administration. Ronald Zorrilla of the New York Outdoor Recreation Coalition, and Bryan, Erwin, State Council of Parks. And then you'll be getting Michaela Roberts and Will Cote, who was just up here, will go through the ins and outs of the effective advocacy. After that, you'll join your team for lunch and get final preparations before you head out for your meetings. But before we go, I want to, I guess, well, we're going to hear from him shortly, but I want to acknowledge, and we're going to hear from him just after Paul. I think we have our electeds in the room. So far, we have Senator Serrano, I think, in the room. But anyone else from our electeds in the room yet? Senator Serrano is one of the great champions and always shows up. Looks like there's someone over there, too. Who else do we have? Okay. And then I just also want to just give thanks. These days don't together. Today you're going to have a seamless day. You're going to have incredible meetings, and it doesn't happen without a lot of hard work. And I want to thank the staff here, Michaela Roberts and Carissa Haberlin from OSI, who worked hard, and PTNY's Will Cote, Shana Hogan, and Dylan Carey for coordinating this entire day. It's a mammoth undertaking, and they did it with grace and good cheer. Here's to them. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Paul Steely White. The man has a gift of public speaking. You'll be repeating his words because he speaks poetry. Thank you, Paul, for coming. Great to see you.
Gift for public speaking, right? So Erik, you may have noticed Erik has a sling there. Shoulder surgery, right? It's not a swimming injury. It's because he's been shouldering this movement for so long. Erik, really, honestly, what Erik did during the pandemic, right? He kept the parks open, and when all those people got there, they had functional restrooms and trailheads and parking and all that wonderful stuff. And so I think the story of this movement that we have here is in large part the story of certainly Erik's predecessors, Carol Ash, Rose Harvey, the other leaders who really pioneered this notion that parks are not just nice to have. They're not just amenities. They're critical infrastructure. And Erik, you took that to the next level. And when all those throngs of visitors came during the pandemic, they rediscovered their public lands in a new way, and we're still riding that wave of record visitation. So Erik, thank you for all your leadership. I'm going to be brief because not only do we have Senator Serrano, but we have Assemblymember Rivera, I think, back there who's going to say a few words. And we have all of you. In these times, in these trying times, myself, I've probably been doing what many of you have been doing, is maybe taking a look inside your heart and thinking about what we're really here to do on this earth. I think back to the Mary Oliver quote of, "What are you going to do with your wild and precious life?" And I love that line because it really challenges us to think about how we're going to spend our limited time. And when I think about what we all might have in common here today, veteran, park, and public lands advocacy day goers and newbies alike, is that probably all of us had a really great, profound, formative experience in nature, right? Raise your hand if you had that as a kid. Senator Serrano, I think of you as your primary sort of exemplar of that, of you had that amazing experience and you carried that through. So many more people are having that experience, right? 90 million people a year just to the state parks alone, not to mention Catskills and Adirondacks and our Greenway network. But I think what people in this room, what you also have, that not everyone does, is not just the call of the wild, but the call of service. You love nature, you love that maybe solitary experience of getting back to nature, but you also value your neighbors. You want other people to have that experience too, maybe people that you'll never even meet. And when I think about, Josh Laird and I were just talking about Bear Mountain in the swimming pool. I remember the first time I was riding my bike up through Bear Mountain and I hear the birds, but then I hear this joyous laughter coming from one of the busiest public pools probably in the world. And that's what it's about, right? It's about protecting and preserving these natural treasures that we have, but also recognizing that we have a duty and a responsibility and really a joy, right, in bringing that experience to other people. And so all of you who are here today who braved the elements to get here, thank you. We're growing this movement in new and marvelous ways, and I'm just so proud to be a part of this team at PTNY. Nadine Lemon, our board chair, is here today. Hi, Nadine. And where's Jeff Bender? Jeff Bender, who's our treasurer, former board chair. You know, at our board retreat in Buffalo, we went around the room. We don't have time to go around the room here today to talk about your profound initial experience in nature, but Jeff, you spoke about going to Thatcher and snowshoeing and experiencing that silence and the crunch of the snow, and it was so poetic. Thank you, Erik. But that passion that we're bringing today, that we're speaking from that sense of authority that's deep within us, that's what we're doing. So we are in an auspicious place, and I'm almost done. We have tremendous leadership right now. Governor Hochul is standing up for New York values. She's really found her voice in a really, really profound way. I'm so proud when I see her standing up for things like the rule of law, you know, for the environment. And Commissioner Lefton, Commissioner Moser, you know, you are part of this leadership that we're seeing from our state, right? Recognizing that science and truth is something we have to hold dear and keep holding up as, you know, our bedrock environmental regulations are under attack. And also recognizing that history is often difficult, it's challenging, it's embarrassing, it's shameful, but we still have a duty to truth and to recognize that that history is something we all share, and it's something that guides us as we try to build a more just and equitable society. Thank you, Martha. So that's my little preachy from the stump here. Where we're going, we have to do a better job of bringing new people into this movement. This room is wider and older than the people who are visiting our public lands. We have to continue staying the course on DEI and reaching out to people who don't have a voice or are underspoken. And I know we have some folks from ESD here today. We have to do a better job of quantifying the impact that these places have on our local, regional, and statewide economies. We know they're priceless, right? But we have to keep doing these economic impact studies. We're doing them at PTNY. We're working with many of you in this room on an upcoming study. But we have to make sure that that's our safe harbor, right? That no matter what's happening in the larger politics or culture, we have that economic bedrock to come back to. So thank you for showing up for this movement, for this day. And as Erik said, go into those meetings with your heads held high and speak with authority, because no one does it better than you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Paul. So as we said, we're going to hear from some speakers, but we're going to actually insert our special friend into the agenda right now, Senator Jose Serrano, who he's preparing remarks as I look at him right now. You know, there's no greater champion for parks in the legislature, and he's become a personal friend over the years. And you know, he walks the walk, talks the talk. His kids have all spent a ton of time in the parks, and so would you give us a few words, Senator?
Thank you so much, Erik. It really is a pleasure to be here with you, and you are an amazing friend, and I just love you, and I mean that. We all love Erik, right? Who doesn't love Erik? But you are an amazing champion, but an even better friend, and I'm really, really happy to be with you. And you know, so you were a lifeguard, well, in 1984. Yeah, while I was swimming at Lake Welch as a 10-year-old, so you were probably there.
One of those kids
Right, the kid's acting crazy. But yeah, it really is, it's so important that we talk about why connecting more and more people to green spaces and nature is so important. And that's why this day is so wonderful. I've said this 1,000 times. I mean, 20 years, I probably have been at all of the Parks Day because this is like the best day of the year for me, right? I mean, Albany can be a little, you know, the politics, Parks Day, yes. You know, I mean, it is just the best people. And one of the things that has made this so enjoyable, this ride, and why I've been in office 24 years, although people have advised me not to keep saying that because they're going to say, oh, you've been here a little too long. But and there's certain things about politics that I've never entirely gotten used to, right? But what has made it so enjoyable and so wonderful is the people you meet along the way. And in particular, the parks advocacy world and folks like Erik and Kathy and Parks and Trails and OSI. Folks who are so grounded in this betterment of society through nature, through exposure to nature. It really is, it makes it wonderful. The meetings, the advocacy, and fighting for funding for these things is very important. As I've mentioned many times before, as a kid growing up in the South Bronx in the 1970s and 80s, my exposure to nature was somewhat limited, right? I mean, nothing wrong living in the South Bronx. I had Yankee Stadium right there, and it was an exciting time. Reggie Jackson was hitting home runs every 5 seconds. It was a really exciting time to be a kid. But we need nature. We need to be in nature. We need the pace of it. So I was lucky enough to be part of a camp 4 years in a row that was on Lake Stahahee in Harriman State Park. And that was at a time when we had a lot more of these camps where nonprofits ran affordable camps that were a great opportunity for kids in the inner city or any part of New York State to get away from their normal surroundings and spend a few weeks in nature. And while I was there, I learned how to swim from a former British Olympic swimmer who was my camp counselor, right? So, that's why, I impress people all the time with my swimming's technique. I'm kidding. But, there were certain things you learn in that experience. Little did I know that I would be doing this job and that I would have the opportunity to talk about how transformative that experience was for me and how it set in motion this feeling of stewardship to all things nature, and how I've raised my wife and I have raised our two children, who are 19 and 14 respectively, and how we have made nature a part of our lives. So my son, who many of you have met, and I see Joshua here, he knows my son very well, and thank you, Joshua. I have a funny story in a minute I'll tell about that. But people say, wow, your son Carlos, he's turned out so well. He's at the University of Pennsylvania. He's such a good kid. Well, every moment we had, we were in Bear Mountain, Lake Welch, Tiarati, Minnewaska, even local parks. We just grounded ourselves in the world of parks, and we would buy books on different ways to sort of interact with nature in constructive ways. And I think it had a very profound effect on him. And I think it also gave him this balance between academics and the wonderful academic world of parks and green spaces and nature, and why that's important. So I do believe that we are facing a situation now where we do have less camps than we did before, and we need to unravel all the reasons why that's happening. And we do have a mission that we're all dedicated to ensuring that we can expose more and more people to the parks and to get them out into nature. And funding is very, very important for that. Former Commissioner Kulleseid, Kathy Moser, our Governor Kathy Hochul, all believe very, very deeply in our state parks. And funding for state parks is something that we continue to fight for, but it's not a one-sided fight. I believe that there is goodwill all around. But what I try to use is my personal experience to create a sense of urgency. That while the nice words matter, and while the good feelings and warm feelings matter, we need to see that money in the budget. We need to see a capital plan that addresses this wonderful park system that we have throughout the state of New York. We need to see a DEC plan that addresses the wonderful Catskills and Adirondacks, making sure that the trails are accessible. So there are a lot more work to be done. And just a little bit about Bear Mountain. Last summer, I out of our busy schedule, we had a moment to go to Bear Mountain and to use the swimming pool up there, which is a wonderful swimming pool. It's one of the cleanest, I'm not kidding, it's one of the cleanest public pools you'll see. And as we were leaving, we were leaving the parking lot, and I see in the distance Joshua Laird, the head of the Palisades Commission, hard at work. You were doing something. You were dressed in your full, park work clothing. And I was thinking to myself, how lucky am I, right? Joshua's working, right? You know, he's making sure Bear Mountain is running, and I'm here using the pool, right? And that's how it should be, right? We should all avail ourselves of these wonderful things. Now, today is a very special day because it's 20 years. So when I get to the Senate floor at 3 o'clock, I'm going to be presenting a Senate resolution honoring this day, honoring Parks and Trails and OSI for 20 years of this Parks Advocacy Day. And before I run off, I have a proclamation that I would like to present to Erik and to Parks and Trails commemorating 20 years of Parks and Public Lands Advocacy Day. When do we add lands?
This year.
Okay, good. Over there? Okay.
Because I don't. Choreography. Okay. The glare from the slide is over there.
Wait, why am I holding it? You guys. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll do this.
Oh, definitely. But you have the podium there. You're okay with it?
Yeah. Oh, the two banners.
Yeah, that's right.
You got it?
Eyes on there. There we
Okay,
go.
good. All right. So I'll put this somewhere.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. So just also another audible, Assemblyman Jonathan Rivera, do you just want to stand up and say hello, introduce yourself? You want to say some words, yell to the room? We love it when the members of the legislature come and grace us with their presence.
Good morning, everybody. I want to give a special shout out to Senator Serrano, who's been leading not just on this conversation, but on countless conversations benefiting the state of New York, its tourism industry, its parks, and really everything. So thank you very much, Senator Serrano. So my name is John Rivera. I represent the 149th Assembly District, and for you that don't know, I'm as far west as it goes. I'm practically in Canada. I'm in Buffalo, New York. The only similarity I have with Sarah Palin is I can, in fact, see Canada from my front porch, as much as she might claim it. But I have the good fortune of representing beautiful park systems where I am, including a big part of the Olmsted Park system, and it is gorgeous if you ever have an opportunity to head that way. And also, the very end of the Empire State Trail is at Buffalo Harbor Park, which is in my district. So if anybody wants to make the long haul, by all means, come on by. I'm just so grateful to represent not just, well, to be part of New York State government in this moment where we are really putting our shoulder in. Senator Serrano said it right. Our governor is really being attentive to this issue and issues around open spaces more so than any other governor that I've witnessed. I've had the good fortune of touring New York State, and I can promise you we have something absolutely unique that no other state has. I'm the subcommittee chair on regional tourism, so I've gone as far east as Long Island can go, and as far west as my backyard, and as far north as Plattsburgh. And I'll tell you, what we have, other states do not have. You know, it's the roar of Niagara Falls, but it's also the quiet peace of Lake Placid at night. And what we have is something special, and it only exists because people have cared to make it exist and to keep it going. I'm sure in our history there's been countless moments where spaces in which people should just enjoy and benefit publicly and freely have been challenged, and many people have wanted it to look differently. But I promise you, the things that we'll be measured on is not by how tall we build our buildings or how good or bad our sports teams play. I'm a Bills fan, so feel bad for me. There you go. But we're going to be measured by how we leave this land for our kids and what we do with it. And the fact that we can keep these spaces the way that they are is a testament to the hard work of the people in this room. So thank you very much. Thank you, Eric, for everything you've done. Appreciate it.
Of course. Okay. So first, we are going to hear from my former colleague, Acting Commissioner Kathy Moser. I'll try not to get too personal, but certainly Kathy and I have been working together for 40 years. And also when I lived in Albany, Kathy welcomed me to Albany, found a place for my family here in such a beautiful way. And so Kathy's a true leader. She has been in conservation, Nature Conservancy, in DEC, lots of roles, and her passion for outdoors and people and access are unparalleled. I'm so happy to have you where you are, and really look forward to supporting you as you get nominated, and as you get the commission confirmed, and then have a long and productive run as Commissioner of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. I'm not talking to her. This is personal, really personal.
Thanks, everybody. It's great to be here today. A couple of things I was thinking about on the way over here. First of all, after 7 years of being part of this event and planning it for months, it's so much easier just to show up and give a presentation. So thanks to OSI and PTNY for 20 years of this great event. And I have a real-life example from last night as to why this is important. So, okay, don't raise your hands, but I met some girlfriends last night for a drink. And as I'm walking to the restaurant, I see an unnamed senator, not the senator here, and an unnamed assemblyman, not the assemblyman here, in the window of the restaurant. So, of course, I go over and say hi. And at the end of the evening, the assembly member calls me over. And so it was really loud in the restaurant. And I thought, he said, I have an issue with a sick park. And I'm like, a sick park? He's like, no, a state park in my district. And it was really hard to, like, okay, he might have been drinking. And I had a glass of wine. But it reminded me that you guys are all advocating for the budget, but you can also help us with parks. If you hear a legislator that's not happy about a boat launch, or let your team leader know, let PTNY or OSI know, and we do take those seriously. We will go back to all those legislators and talk to them about what's happening at their parks. So that's a real live example from last night. And the last thing I would say before I start my slideshow, and it's going to really focus on the budget, so you have reasons to like go out there and praise the governor and talk to the Senate and the Assembly about all the great things that are happening in parks. Somebody asked me, it happens almost every weekend, Commissioner or Acting Commissioner, what's your favorite park? And of course, as a commissioner, I can't or shouldn't have one. But the places I go, the things that I remember about them are the people. The people in the parks, like I'm starting, to get goosebumps here, but I can tell you their stories because they live the passion. They love their jobs. I've met people who've worked at state parks for 50 years. I met people whose fathers and grandfathers have worked for state parks. So the parks are amazing. The historic sites are phenomenal, but it's the people that make our parks. And so the next time you go to a park, jump in the pool, but talk to the lifeguards. You never know who might be a future commissioner. So I just wanted to say that before I dive into the budget. So, Amanda Lefton and I, we get briefed on the budget like the day before the governor comes out with it. And it was incredible to see how the governor recovered from some of the federal cuts to our budget. So the state budget's gone up a little bit this year, but our federal funding was down over $10 billion, and a lot of that was in healthcare. And the governor took a surplus. I always think, Wall Street's getting fatter and the rich are getting richer. But no, our economy depends a lot on Wall Street. And so all of those bonuses have gone to a $17 billion increase in revenue that we weren't expecting. So the governor's been able to plug some of the federal holes in the budget. And the next slide will show you that she's still committed to the environment. So, usually we talk about how we need $200 million in state parks to manage our 250 parks and historic sites. I thought we might get a little bit more this year. The day before the budget came out, we got $140 million above the $200 million that we usually get, and I was kind of blown away by that. In addition, the governor kept the Environmental Protection Fund at $425 million, and she added another $75 million for what we call New York Bricks, which is the recreational infrastructure for communities and kids. And so what I want to do is highlight some of the capital budget that is in there that the governor lined out. So we'll start by looking at So in 2022, the governor announced a new state park for Rochester called High Falls State Park. Yay, it's going to be great. And Empire State Development gave parks, $8 million. We did a very public visioning exercise. We came out with the renderings, I think my second week on the job in October. We're like, okay, we got no money to do this. And the governor put $75 million in her budget for the first phase of High Falls. It's going to be a great project. I'm meeting with the mayor in March, and we will have more public input into the different phases of that park. So that one was a surprise to see in the budget. The next one we were going to fund no matter what, but the governor recognized that Riverbank is the green space for Harlem. We get 4 million people that go there every year. We have employees there who live in public housing because we don't pay them enough money, but they love welcoming the school kids off the buses. And so it needs a lot of repairs. So the $10 million that the governor put in the budget is going to focus on a plan for the whole 28-acre structure, what needs to be done, phase it in, and the first part of this funding for capital go for that skating building. The figure skaters of Harlem are based at Riverbank Park. It's really an amazing park. You should totally go there. Another $20 million for Lake Welch. We get 15,000 people on a summer weekend day. Most of those people are from disadvantaged communities. And so the governor put money in for a new wastewater treatment system and a new bathhouse. So we're breaking ground on Sebago this year, Lake Sebago, but Lake Welch will start in 2027. So that was another part of her budget. Montauk Downs, we have this phenomenal mid-century modern welcome center for a lot of the users there, and the governor put in $20 million for a comprehensive project to repair that infrastructure there at Montauk Downs. And then we have, for those of you who haven't been there, a lot of our historic preservation staff are based at Peeble Island State Park. We have 2 million objects behind lock and key that we'd really like to share with the public. I mean, you name it, from John Jay's Supreme Court suit to a locket that has George Washington's hair in it. It's all in there. And so the governor gave us $7 million for what we're calling the Preservation and Resource Center at People's Islands. The $7 million is a visioning exercise to say, what can we do? How can we let the public in here? How can we respect our past? So again, it was a surprise to see a happy surprise, don't get me wrong, a happy surprise on the budget. And then some of the other things that she had, Niagara Falls, oldest park in North America, predates the national park system, huge, millions and millions of visitors. But people only go and stand at the falls, and we have 2 other parks right there, Whirlpool and Devil's Hole, and so we're adding them into the park, creating a longer trail system, and we really believe, we've done some economic studies, that we can have people stay longer in Niagara Falls, go take trails, go and experience some of the nature there. So not a big budget item, but a really, and I give a lot of kudos to our Niagara region staff for thinking of that one. And then we've had a tough time keeping the trades in parks. We have, somebody thinks we have over 6,000 buildings. We're not really sure, we're still counting. And, but we need electricians and plumbers and carpenters, and it's hard, the private sector pays more. So the governor announced a pilot trade program where we're targeting 18 to 24-year-olds to come work for parks, and it's gonna be hands-on experience. Joshua Laird from the Palisades Interstate Park Commission says there's 900 buildings associated with the camps at Harriman and Bear Mountain. And so those trade corps are going to learn on the job and renovate those camps. So we're really excited about that as well. Now, I didn't realize that when I started this job in October that there's 44 sites in our state park and historic system that are directly connected to the Revolutionary War. And of course, 2026 is the kickoff of that commemoration. But we at New York State Parks, working with our colleagues in state ed, have talked about the unfinished revolution. And we want to document our whole history. What were enslaved people doing in 1776? What were women doing? Women didn't get their freedom. Blacks didn't get their freedom in 1776. So we started that commemoration to talk about all the different folks in 1776. And we're rolling that into 2027, which we're calling Enslavement to Freedom. The first enslaved people showed up in North America in 1627. The emancipation just started in 1827. And so we're really focused on what did that mean? What does it mean for us as a country? So I really love the fact that New York is talking not just about 1776 and not just about the people that fought in the war, but what was happening with everyone there. If you could go back one more. The other thing that I wanted to let everyone know is, so our Enslavement to Freedom, if you walk along the concourse, that display is out there. It's a mobile display. If you want to bring it to your park or historic site, just let us know. We have a couple of those, and it'll go around the state. We also have a van that's going to take part of our collection tied to the Revolution War, so talk to your regional parks managers about getting that. The governor just announced, I think it was last week, $3.8 million for African American heritage grants, and this is open to not-for-profits and municipalities, counties, to document your own history. Some of our State Council of Parks members yesterday were talking about the Harriet Tubman Byway, but what can you do in your community to commemorate the African American history there? So we have $3.8 million. You can find more information on the website. And I'm almost there. So 2026, I told my family, we're not planning any formal vacations because I'm going to be on the road a lot, which is a lot of fun. We have a ton of ribbon cuttings coming up. I don't know if the assemblyman is still here, but we're opening Buffalo Harbor. It's going to be ready in May. Might be a little cold to have. There's 230 kids that can fit on that splash pad. We're going to have a splash pad, a playground. That'll open in probably June. The Jones Beach East Bathhouse will be open this year, probably in July. Really cool project. The Sojourner Truth State Park swimming crib will be open in July. We're going to cut a ribbon at Riverbank in May for the new baseball fields and basketball courts. And we're also starting the Lake Sebago improvements as well. So we talk a lot about the budget. I'm really proud of a lot of the other work that's going on at state parks. I do want to call out our Deputy Commissioner of Capital, Bevan Collins. She will have 160 construction projects in the field this coming year, which is kind of mind-blowing about that. But we have an incredible environmental stewardship happening at our state parks and programming. So just like a month ago, I sent out to all of our State Council of Park members, and I want, if you're a member of the State Council of Parks, can you just raise your hand real quick so everybody knows who you are? Nancy, I see you. Some of the back table. We have the State Council of Parks is legislatively created. It's been around for over 100 years, and those are the real people in our regions that give us advice. So, I sent out priorities, and so number one is the health and safety of both our visitors and our employees. We lost 2 employees last year, 2024, and that shouldn't happen. You shouldn't lose your life doing a job. So we're trying to do the best job that we can at state parks and historic sites to protect our visitors and our staff. Build back better. New state parks are great, but we have a $4 billion backlog that I can show you the spreadsheet on, and it has grown since the days of Robin and Carol Ash talking about the backlog at state parks. But we want to make sure that the visitor experience is as best as possible, and so we're really focusing. We work with our 11 regions, and what are the top priorities? So that's another priority for us. I stole a slogan from the Open Space Institute called Open Spaces for All, but those of you who know me, it's near and dear to my heart. We want to make sure that everyone feels welcome at state parks, whether from an urban area, disadvantaged communities, LGBTQ, from a rural area. We want everyone to feel like they're welcome at state parks. Climate change and sustainability, I'm so impressed at what Parks is doing. I could give a whole lecture on that, about the Governor's Executive Order 22 and what we're doing to make sure our parks are resilient and sustainable. And we're using sustainable energy in our state parks as well. And then the last thing I wanted to end on is our partnerships. And that's what you guys represent to me. You are true partners in every single park and historic site. We need your support. We need your input. We need you today to talk to your legislators about how important parks and open spaces and historic sites are to you. So I've had so much fun in this job as my kids watch me because, the staff documents me traveling like, Mom, we don't see you at home, but we saw you were in the Finger Lakes last week. But it's been a great job, and hopefully this summer we'll get you out there to some of these ribbon cuttings, and I'll see you in the field. So thank you for all you do for state parks, public lands, and historic sites. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy, for all that great material. I hope I was taking notes as you talked to legislators today. And thank you for the investments in Riverbank. That pool is my favorite place to go. As soon as this thing gets out of my little friend here wrapping around it, I'm going to get back in that pool. So our next speaker, I'm blessed to have worked with incredible people, and Amanda Lefton is one of them. Amanda and I got to know each other, we've known each other for a long time because she's been in this sector, the Nature Conservancy. Conservation is really she's a true believer in what we're doing in this room. But we also worked together under the Cuomo administration when I was commissioner. She's a dear friend, and she is fierce. She is a true believer. You get the feeling with Amanda that anything is possible. That's the way she goes through, and there's no stone that will be left unturned, and I'm honored to call her both a colleague and a really dear friend.
Really have to lower that mic after Erik. Erik, I thought I was your hype man, but I'm learning today that you have many hype men. I thought I had that distinguished honor, but I will spend a moment talking about Erik because while I first met Erik, actually probably at one of these lobby days when I was at the Nature Conservancy, we did have the opportunity to work closely together, as he noted. And at the time, unfortunately, COVID hit our state. And as you know, Erik was the commissioner at OPRHP during COVID, and I was in the governor's office at the time. And it was amazing to see Erik's leadership during that incredible time of crisis for our state. Erik fought to keep every single inch of our state parks open. He fought to make sure that we could do it safely, that we could continue to have recreational opportunities for New Yorkers, because we knew that during that time, it's when people needed access to the outdoors more than anything. And it's thanks to Erik's leadership that the state was able to provide that. I can't tell you enough how hard he worked and how hard he fought to keep every square inch of our parks open. So thank you, Erik, for your leadership. But not that I pick favors, because Kathy Moser is also amazing. And I'm so excited that Kathy Moser is here. She is going to be an exceptional state parks commissioner. In fact, she already is. She's already hit the ground running, and I'm super excited to have her, not just as a colleague, but in the same building. We get to see each other in the parking lot every now and then. It's lovely. And I also want to give a huge thank you to Paul. You know what? I love that Senator Serrano, who has been such a tremendous leader for our state park system for so many years, said, when did we add public lands? And it's this year, thanks to you guys. Thank you. On behalf of the Department of Environmental Conservation, adding public lands, saying parks and public lands, and talking about holistically our recreational opportunities, our open space opportunities, our just our conservation initiatives as a state. It is so important that we talk about that big picture, and we're able to really tell that story to the legislature, to build this movement, and to do the great work that you're doing. And Paul, you are an inspiring leader. Thank you so much for your work. It's really a great honor to be the DEC commissioner, but especially at this time. There's been some undertones this morning talking about the challenges at the federal level and the fact that we're seeing an administration in Washington that's really seeking to roll back the things that we care so much about here in New York. The basic things that we thought we could depend on, clean air and clean water, as well as conservation. And it is really unprecedented times that we're seeing this sort of pushback against the things that we hold near and dear and the things that we've spent so much time protecting in our state. And we are just so lucky to have a champion in Governor Hochul during this time. She has not only, as Kathy well articulated, made sure that we're continuing to deliver vital services for New Yorkers as the federal government is slashing our budget. She's also continuing to prioritize programs like the ones we're here talking about today. And in fact, for the first time in state's history, there's over $1 billion for environmental programs in this year's budget. Think about that for a second. We've got a federal administration that's almost every day rolling back an environmental regulation, pulling back environmental funding, abandoning disadvantaged and environmental justice communities. And here in New York, our governor is increasing investments. She is opening more parks. She is protecting more state lands. She's ensuring that conservation remains a priority in the state. And that is really remarkable leadership, and we are so lucky to have Governor Hochul leading the way right now. I'm truly honored to be a part of her administration. And in fact, talking about that, I mean, of course, of that $1 billion, $425 million for the Environmental Protection Fund, again, in this year's budget. That is amazing. And when we all used to gather in this, what was the EPF 20 years ago when this started? Do you remember, Jess Otney? You just have all these numbers in your head? What's a so sorry. It was probably $100 million 20 years ago. We're just going to... but really, it's amazing to think about that progress, that this group, all of you have come together for the last 20 years advocating for environmental funding, including the EPF. And today, we're at $425 million, thanks to you, thanks to the EPF Coalition, thanks to so many folks that year after year show up and advocate for the importance of this. And in addition to the work that you've done for so many years advocating for OPRHP, I'm so excited that we're also adding public lands here to your initiative today because, as we know, here at DEC, we own and manage almost 5 million acres of land, almost 5,000 miles of trails. We have 1,900 facilities across the state. And I think people often think of DEC as in the Catskills and the Adirondacks, and we are. We love the Catskills and the Adirondacks. I'm looking at you, Adirondacks table. But we're all across New York, and whether that's the east end of Long Island or that's out in Buffalo near Zoar Valley, DEC manages fishing access sites, conservation lands, so many important recreational opportunities across the state. And it is so important in order for us to ensure that we have the funding that we have today, including $90 million in our Adventure New York capital funds. We get that funding year over year thanks to your advocacy, thanks to your support, thanks to you showing up year after year and telling the story to our partners in the legislature about how important these public places are for you, whatever your origin story is about showing up in the vital role that public space has played in your lives every single day. And so just thank you again, because as much as DEC and our team is so committed to delivering on environmental programs and our conservation mission, we don't do it alone. We do it in partnership with all of you. And whether that's those of you here today or the many friends group that we have across the state, or just the partnership we have day in and day out with Parks and Trails, with OSI, we do this together and we're stronger together. So just thank you so much for your advocacy. It truly makes a huge difference. I'm so excited for you guys to go out today and have so many conversations about how they should give a lot of money to DEC. Yeah, I'm with you. And I will just note a couple of really exciting accomplishments that we have underway. So in addition to the critical funding that the governor has included in the environment, she also launched really exciting initiatives in the state of the state. And I'm really proud of the work that DEC is doing. Our campaign is called These Lands Are For Everyone, but maybe we should co-brand something between OPRHP and DEC. But our focus really on increasing accessibility and ensuring that our public spaces are safe places for everyone. We are growing and continuing to focus on accessibility, and we've done that through investments in our trail system, through brand new trails like the Adirondack Rail Trail. Julia's right here, so I'm going to talk about it a lot. Yeah. completed last year, which is an amazing resource and fully ADA accessible. It's actually really an amazing thing to go see. The governor has launched this year additional investments through the Bond Act to invest in our These Lands for Everyone initiative, including an inclusive, sensory-friendly, and accessible experiences across our properties, really aimed at increasing accessibility for children with autism, really thinking more about how we're opening up our public spaces and thinking about how we create really inclusive and accessible open spaces for everyone. We also are moving forward with some new accessibility features at Rhinestone Woods out in Buffalo through these funds. And I just say this, yeah, Rhinestone Woods. Are you part of the Friends group out there? That's awesome. Were you there when I was out there? You look so familiar. It's so good to see you again. How are you? Thank you for being here. Awesome. Rhinestone Woods is a beautiful, beautiful piece of property out in Western New York. I encourage everybody to go see it. And the Friends group there is really terrific and such a great example of the partnership that we have. And we're really excited that thanks to the governor's initiative, we're able to invest in making that space even more special. So thank you so much for your partnership. So in addition, of course, to our focus on These Lands Are for Everyone, we're also getting kids of all ages outside, getting them offline and outside. And in fact, last year we just launched a brand new challenge that's funded in part through the EPF and with the work of our Friends group, and we launched it at Rhinestone Woods, that is really aimed to continue to build the conservationists of tomorrow and getting our kids really engaged and getting outdoors and investing in nature. So really, I'll just say again that we are just incredibly lucky to be in this great state, especially during these unprecedented times. Thanks to Governor Hochul, we're seeing really record investments in conservation and continuing to fight for the environment, and notably continuing to fight for the rule of law. And this year, with a $425 million EPF, with record funding for clean water, with our capital funds at $90 million, DEC is going to continue to deliver, but we know we don't do it alone. We know we do it in partnership with all of you. So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for your partnership. Yeah, go get us more money. Go.
Thank you, Commissioner. So our next guest, I think, deserves a medal just for having gotten here today. I think epic travel, cross borders, digging out cars, buses. Maybe we'll hear a little bit about it. But anyway, we were going to hear from Ronald Zorrilla, who is the co-chair of the New York Outdoor Recreation Coalition. Ronald.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ronald Zorrilla, co-chair of the Outdoor Recreation Coalition and founder of Outdoor Promise. I'm a little frazzled. It's been quite a journey to get here. I was visiting my family in Dominican Republic. The flight got canceled. I had to drive cross country, Dominican Republic, fly to Toronto, then Montreal, then take a train down yesterday. Passed by Albany last night, said hi, and then dug out the Outdoor Promise bus to give people a ride back up. Thank you. I've built so many great relationships here in Advocacy Day, and that's why I couldn't miss it. Aside from advocating for parks, it's so important to connect with the people right here in your tables. I've made collaborations and gotten support and supported other organizations. So aside from talking to legislators, also talk to the people around you, even people that are not part of your team, because those connections are what's going to move all this work forward. I had a similar experience to Senator Serrano. When I was 14, the New York Hall of Science sent me to a DEC camp, and it was my first real outdoor experience as a New York City kid. I've never been camping before. I never did a night hike where I looked up and saw bats flying around. And that experience really was the catalyst to me creating Outdoor Promise when I got older, and trying to give that experience to other people and connecting people that are not usually connected to the outdoors is so important. It's like an insurance plan for the future and building future advocates. And I come to this work not just as an advocate, but as someone who's out there regularly, seeing how decisions that are made in these rooms actually play out on the ground in our communities. And if you've been listening this morning, and I know you have, you've heard from the strong leadership at DEC and Parks and all the other organizations that are working so hard to protect land for all New Yorkers. All of this is essential. All of that matters. My role here today is to talk about what happens after these policies leave this building, when they meet real people, real communities, and real conditions on the ground. Because parks don't succeed just because they're on a map or they're on some budget line. They succeed when people actually use them, when they trust them, and when they feel like they're meant to be there. At the New York Outdoor Recreation Coalition, and thank you all the members and working group leads, we got some cool new pins. Hopefully you consider joining and finding out more. Our members work across the state in urban, rural, and everywhere in between. And when access is intentional, when communities are engaged early, parks stop being just protected spaces. They become places of learning, for health, for jobs, for connection, which we really need right now. But that doesn't happen automatically. It happens when policy is paired with partnerships, when local organizations are treated as collaborators and not afterthoughts in planning, and when access is intentional and built from the start. And that's why today matters so much. Advocacy days aren't just symbolic, they're practical. The conversations you'll have this afternoon affect whether a trailhead is reachable without a car, whether a waterfront is active or fenced off, whether a young person sees conservation as something distant or something they can be part of. And shout out to the Newburgh youth that are here today to represent parks, Stephen, Aileen, and Moser. And something that we don't usually say out loud is that if we don't build public support for parks now, they become vulnerable later. Support comes from use comes from access, and access comes from choices, funding choices, planning choices, and partnership choices. So as you meet with legislators today, I'd ask you to frame the conversation. This isn't parks versus other priorities. Parks is a priority. Parks are places that support public health. They support the climate issues. They drive local economies. And they're shared civic spaces for us to connect as communities. And when we invest in parks, we're not choosing something extra. We're strengthening a system that saves money and builds resilience over time. So please, I know this is the time of crisis and environmental work. There's always bad news, but we really need hope to move these conversations forward and continue doing the work and continuing down this path of more funding, more connection, more people using the parks, and doing what really works. We have strong agencies, we have strong advocates here like yourselves, and we have a shared responsibility for the next generation. They shouldn't just inherit parks that they're told to protect. They should feel connected to the parks and feel responsible for them, and this is what we're gonna try to do. So go out there, don't be shy, have conversations. Thank you for being here today, and thank you all for the work you do to protect parks.
And last but not least, the featured speakers. Kathy mentioned earlier the State Council of Parks, who are really the lead volunteers appointed by the governor, confirmed by the Senate, to serve in volunteer positions, volunteer stewards for our parks. And today we are fortunate to have Bryan Erwin, who I worked side by side with when I was commissioner, and he has continued to fight the fight all the way from the east end of Long Island, Mr. Bryan Erwin.
All right, good morning, everybody. How are we doing? We're doing all right? We're getting fired up? You've heard some speakers. I'm only going to talk about 2 topics real quickly, and then we'll get some lunch and we'll get on our way. Topic 1, I have some good news and I have some mitigating news. No bad news, just some good news and some so-so news. The good news is this, especially for those of you who are new to this. None of your meetings in general will be adversarial. We have, thanks to some of the support we have by our champions in the Assembly and the Senate, broad bipartisan support for our public lands and parks. That's the good news. There's not a counter group we're going to see in the hallways wearing black scarves, advocating to disinvest in our public lands and defund the parks. You're not going to see that, and let's be grateful for that. This is good news. You also heard the good news from our commissioners. Because of this governor and our champions in the Senate and the Assembly, we have record investment in our parks and public lands. We are extraordinarily grateful for that. A lot of that is the work you all have been doing, you veterans who've been coming here for nigh on 20 years advocating for parks and public lands. This is your efforts are part of this. But this is what you will see. When you're walking the halls of the Capitol, you'll see other advocacy groups. And I'm only speaking for myself. When I see these other advocacy groups, I also agree with what they're propagating. I really have no argument. Just down the hall is AFSCME. I come from a union household. Put me through college, union wages. I hope they get everything they're asking for as well. I don't know what they're asking for, but I support our neighbors in the next conference room. But that's the challenge that we have. If we take our foot off the gas, if we decide to, you know what, let's not come up to Albany in a snowy February, a less enlightened state senator, a less educated assembly person may say, hey, you know what, public lands and parks, mission accomplished. Maybe they got all that they wanted and more. We can direct some of our scarce resources elsewhere. And that's what you're all doing here today. So every time you're meeting with an assemblyman, a senator, or their staff, you are making sure we can at very least hold serve with what Kathy showed us before, and if not, we can have more investment in our parks and public land. So that's the first thing I want to talk to you all about. Second thing, we are all of us here, of course, to support our home parks and public lands in our regions, all of which are in the state of New York. If you allow me to be a little expansive, I'll argue to you, those are table stakes. Those are our opening bids of what we're doing here today. You heard from our commissioners. The bipartisan support that we have for our public lands and parks, that is not what we're seeing from Washington today. As a matter of fact, I was joking before, but there is a movement to disinvest in our public lands. There is a movement to defund our national parks. And thank God we have this federalist system of government that we're celebrating almost 250 years of starting this government. We have this federalist system where here in our states, we can be, all of us, a bulwark against that disinvestment in our public lands and our defunding of our national parks. And if I can hopefully give you some inspiration, we've been here before as a state. As Erik's educated me before, the reason why we don't have a portfolio national park in New York State is because our state beat the national parks to the punch. We had state parks at Niagara Falls, at Jones Beach. We had public lands at Adirondacks before there were national parks. We were a symbol for the rest of the country. So here we are again, 120 years later. This is what I would argue, if I can be expansive, what you're doing today when you're advocating for investment in our public lands and public and state parks. You are also, as our forebearers did, you are also striking out for an investment nationally and setting an example of what we all can do here in New York State as we did before. So good luck today. Get out there. Have great meetings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bryan. Contrary to what Bryan said, we do have a couple more. Now we're going to get into the logistics of the day. And I just want to say, Just if you're looking at the chairs around you, we do have a train from New York that's just recently gotten in. So if you can just be mindful of freeing up seats next to you, because we do have some more people who are in the process of arriving to join us today. If anyone needs a seat. So now we're going to start talking about what the day looks like. And the first person we're going to hear from is my colleague, Michaela Roberts, who's going to talk to us about what you'd expect and give a briefing for the day. And Michaela's works very hard on today's program, and give her a warm applause.
Thank you, Erik. Good morning and welcome to Park and Public Lands Advocacy Day. As Erik said, my name is Michaela Roberts. I work with the Open Space Institute, and today marks my 8th year at Park Advocacy Day. I can't believe it. Today I'm going to briefly walk you through some lobbying tips that will hopefully help you have effective meetings with legislators and their staff today. And then I'll go through some of the logistics for the rest of the afternoon. You all have received a handout in your folders called Lobbying Tips that provides you some best practices and reminders as you prepare for your meetings this afternoon. I know we have a lot of first-timers in the room today, and it's great, but I'll start out by saying that you do not need to be a policy expert to make an impact, and I really do mean that. What matters most are kind of like 3 big things. You want to be prepared, so after Will and I speak with you, familiarize yourself with our key budget asks and talking points so you can communicate clear and specific asks during your meetings. Be confident in yourself. You bring lived experience and on-the-ground knowledge, and you are the expert on your parks and your trails and communities. Legislators are looking to you for insight and information about why this funding is important and how it impacts their districts and communities. And third, use this as an opportunity to make positive connections. This is an opportunity to build relationships. Your goal is not just to make, one ask today, but to start a conversation that will strengthen support for our priorities this year and into the future. Some best practices to keep in mind. Lobbying is a communication skill, first and foremost, and it should go without saying. Always thank your legislator that you're meeting with and their staff for their time and attention. This goes a long way. Our meetings are short. They are scheduled in 30-minute blocks, but I would say try to keep it to 20 minutes or so. We have a lot of people in each group. As we heard, this is the largest Park Advocacy Day we've ever had, so our group sizes are large. Keep your comments short and focused so that you can allow everyone to speak and leave time for some follow-up questions. Some meetings are back-to-back, so in these cases, you'll especially want to be conscious of time so you can get to your next meeting. During your meeting, you all will want to introduce yourself, your organization, or your connection to your park or trail, and speak briefly on why these issues matter to you and how this funding has an impact. Sharing your story is powerful and encouraged. Just keep it brief if you can, and remember to tie it back to at least one of our main asks. If a tangent starts to derail the meeting, it's okay to re-anchor the conversation back to the talking points. Group leaders, please try to help facilitate this if that does happen. It should go without saying, be professional, don't lose your temper if there is disagreement. I think like Bryan said, I have never experienced this sort of situation in my 8 years doing this event, so hopefully that won't be an issue, but if it is, just restate why you believe what you're asking for is important. And feel free to reference the talking points and back that up with some information. Now, if a question comes up that you do not know the answer to, that is okay. All you can say is, that's a great question. I want to get you the correct information. I'll follow up after the meeting. Don't try to make up an answer. And of course, make sure to actually get their contact information so you can follow up. If you don't feel well suited to follow up with them, feel free to reach out to PT&Y or OSI staff. We are happy to do that for you. And at the end of each meeting, try to get a commitment. This is really important. It can be as simple as saying, can we count on your support? Can you advocate with leadership and your colleagues to support these funding levels? This is information we want to know and keep track of because it helps us understand where legislators stand on issues. So please take notes, and group leaders, return your notes to Parks and Trails New York using the link in your folders. There's a QR code that you can scan and type in your notes after your meetings. A note for group leaders as well, leave written materials. Each of you will be getting a packet to hand to your legislators and their staff. But everyone else, feel free to leave materials that you have for your organization or park or friends group and your business cards. Also make sure to get the business card of whoever you met with so we can keep track. And again, at the end of your meeting, thank them again. It's an incredibly busy time of year, so we want to show our appreciation for them making the time to meet with us. Next slide, please. Great. So some logistics for the day. After we conclude the morning program, you will get your lunch and meet with your group. Use this time to review and discuss the talking points in your folders and strategize how you want the meetings to flow. This could be as simple as assigning who talks about which ask, figuring out which order you want to go in, whatever helps you all feel confident go into your meetings. Really important, we are expecting very long lines at security into the Legislative Office Building and Capitol today. So please give yourself plenty of time to get through security. Keep an eye on the clock during lunch. It's easy to get wrapped up in conversation. I think I want to give myself 30 minutes to get through. So really make sure you have that time. If you need to, you can grab your lunch to go. They're all in to-go containers. Once you go through security, we don't recommend leaving because then you'll have to go back through it again if you need to get back in. So just wait until you're done with all your meetings for the day. You will need to go through a metal detector, so be mindful of any jewelry, pocket knives. I know there have been issues with bike locks. If any of you decided to ride your bike here today, hopefully not, or any other objects that you think might get flagged. You're welcome to leave your belongings and coats here, so you don't have to schlep them through the LOB and Capitol. Just make sure at the end of the day to come back, pick them up by no later than 4:30. Your packets include all the information you'll need for the day, including your team's meeting schedule and locations. We encourage you to check the directory next to the elevator banks to confirm your room numbers. This sometimes changes from year to year. We're pretty confident we have the right room numbers, but just double check. And if you have any questions or need help, Shayna's number is in your folders. You are welcome to call her. Her and my colleague Carissa will be in the breezeway of the Legislative Office Building. There will be some tables there, so if you have questions between meetings, feel free to reach out to them if you have any scheduling issues or anything else that comes up. The most fun part, we invite you all to join us for a responsible happy hour at the end of the day after our meetings. It will be at City Beer Hall, which is located not far from here at the corner of Howard and Lodge Streets. Folks will start showing up for this around 4 or 4:30. It's a great way to continue networking and to just unwind from a really long day. And finally, if you'd like to share your experience on social media, please use the hashtag Parks Advocacy Day 2026. And remember to tag OSI and PTNY. We encourage you to share photos, take photos with your legislators, that they always love that, and share them on social media. And just to promote our advocacy priorities again, it's great. Are there any questions? Initial questions. I'll be around afterwards, after we finish our morning program if you do have any questions. But I'm going to hand it over to Will Cote now to talk through our priorities for this year.
Good morning, everyone. Y'all hear me? Perfect. I am essentially standing between you and lunch and you and your legislative meetings. And I'm going to talk through your talking point materials. So you have that in your packet, and you can pull them out, right? This is like social studies in high school. I pull out your materials and be following along. Before we get into the talking points, I want to encourage you all to trust your team leaders. They're going to help you craft the correct message and answer any questions that you have. They're going to be your navigator. Before I talk about those specific elements, I also just want to, again, thank the entire OSI and PTNY team, especially Shayna Hogan, who is back here walking around, and Dylan Carey from PTNY, who's out front. They really helped to orchestrate and pull all of this together, and it wouldn't be possible without them. And I want to also mention that we are expecting a very busy day. I know you've heard that. I'm telling you again to really hit it home. I encourage you to consider leaving 30 minutes before your first meeting to pass through security. I'm going to be sending someone down in a minute to kind of give us a sense of what the lines look like, but there is a Tax the Rich rally today, which we weren't anticipating a week ago, and so it's going to be bedlam in the best way possible. So really lean into the experience and enjoy the energy that's going on there. As all of our featured speakers have said, I want to reiterate that we're starting in a fantastic point going into the budget this year. And as Bryan said, we're at a high water mark. And so what I'm encouraging all of you to do is to really bring your enthusiasm, bring your passion, and bring a personal story about how you champion parks, public lands, and greenways, and ground the asks that we're going to talk through in a moment in reality. Right? Talk about what it means in your daily life. Talk about what it means for your local community. We want to take big numbers like 340 million and make it grounded in someone's personal experience. That's why you all are here. And because we're at this high watermark, people will say, well, why do we have to show up for Advocacy Day? Because you never miss a year. You always have to show up. You always have to turn out, and you have to continue to beat the drum. So some of the talking points here are going to be a little bit more aspirational than what you're going to see in the budget. We're going to be talking about a $500 million environmental protection fund. That is obviously not what the governor's proposed, but it's where we want to be. So it's okay to continue to plant a flag for where this coalition and all of us and all of you as individual land champions want to see these items land. All right, so we continue to beat the drum. With that, let's talk about our talking points a little bit. So you have this handy dandy document. I'm not going to go through all of it because you've heard a lot of folks speak today. Everything you need is in here. And again, rely on your team leaders. But let's start with the Environmental Protection Fund. It was proposed at $425 million. That's where we were last year. We would love to see that happen, obviously, but we also want to get to 500 million. So it is okay to put that number out there. This should not be something new to a legislator or their staff. Okay, so feel free to put that out there. Within that Environmental Protection Fund, a couple of key lines. We want to see the Municipal Parks Program grow to 40 million. And we want to see the Open Space and Land Conservation line grow to 50 million. Again, will it happen? Probably not. But it might happen next year or the year after or the year after. So we continue to push that forward. Also within the Environmental Protection Fund, that's near and dear to many of you and us at PTNY, is the Park and Trail Partnership Grant Program. We would love to see that get to 4 million ultimately. And you have numbers in your packet to justify that ask. I will say we're really happy. We received a little bump of 1.35 or 1.35 million additional this year, which is great. So we can feel free to give a nod to that. Again, if your group or organization ever received a grant, now is the time to talk about it. Your team leader is also going to have a packet of bio information for your legislators. All right, that information is going to have some birds. Was there birds? Did I hear that? Oh, it was a phone. Okay. I was like, oh my gosh. It's not angels singing, it's birds. How perfect. So feel free to ask your team leader to give you a little bit of information in that lead up. So it'll tell you, does the legislator have a park, a historic site, a greenway in their district? And you can, again, tie those asks back to those specifics. Moving on from the EPF, with a caveat here, if the Connect Kids to Parks program is near and dear to you, speak to that. If there are other elements for some of our Land Trust Alliance friends or other partners that are near and dear to you, please feel free to speak to that. We just want to make sure that we're really hitting home the Environmental Protection Fund overall. Next is the $340 million in capital for the Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. You can just call that State Parks. The staff will know what you're talking about. All right, you have tons of information in here about what that money is going to. It's a great way to say, my park just received X, Y, and Z improvements. This is phenomenal. Here's what it's done for visitation and the user experience. My park really needs new lightings and bathroom, right? We're still dealing with infrastructure from the 70s. This is a great way to say, I know it's on the list. Keep the capital money flowing. This is how it supports the 85, 86, 87, 88 million visitors every single year. All right, so that's how you kind of tether those pieces. We heard from Commissioner Lefton. The governor proposed $90 million in DEC capital, the Adventure New York Fund. We're happy to actually see that hold flat this year. We thought there might be a decrease. There was not, but we'd still like to get to 100 million. All right, so continue to put that number out there, continue to beat the drum, and there's some information in the packet for you about that. And last but not least, we're asking for, ultimately, we're laying the groundwork for asking for dedicated capital for New York State's Empire State Trail and the Greenways system. It is a major outdoor recreation infrastructure component in New York State. It has no dedicated funding of any kind. And ultimately, we are going to be the coalition that solves that. So continue to put that forward if that is near and dear to your heart and to your partners, colleagues, and coalition members. All of that information is in here for you. If you have any questions, ask your team leader. If you have any questions that they don't know the answer to, or you want to come see me, I'll be floating around the side. I'm happy to answer any more of your specific questions. And I, again, strongly encourage all of you to try and make it as personal and as connected and as real and tangible as you can in your asks. Last thing I will say before I turn it back over to Erik for a couple closing remarks. It is going to be really critical for all of us to stay as on message as is possible, and it's going to be very, very busy again. If you have any questions, Shayna and her team and Carissa and the OSI team will be in the breezeway. That is the hallway just inside security that connects the Capitol to the Legislative Office Building. So they will be there all day to kind of help you navigate. You all are the experts. Feel confident in being the expert. It is okay also if you don't meet with the legislator. Sometimes their staff, their legislative directors, their chief of staff, are a little bit more knowledgeable about things than maybe the legislator themselves are. So feel free to speak to them as you would a legislator. And with that, good luck. I'll see you out there.
So thank you for your patience. Thanks for bearing with us this morning. That's the end of this part of the program. I think just as Will said, I think where we come back and then lunches are arriving soon. You're gonna find your team leaders. If you the lunch it's a boxed lunch. If you need to take it with you, you can take it with you. And I think really I just want to end with gratitude. Our parks, as everyone has said here today, we are in a very fortunate place in New York by and large. And our parks are the way they are because of you all, because of the energy, because of the devotion, because the time you're willing to take out of your busy lives to come here and stand up for our parks and public lands. And on behalf of PTNY, on behalf of the Open Space Institute, I just say thank you. Have a great day. Have fun. Take the stairs when the elevator's crazy, and just go out and spread the mission. Thank you.